Now, can you imagine being in the scenario where you don't have a backup plan, you don't have a situation where you're dependent on those payments coming through, and suddenly it's just flick of a button, boom, you're cut off. This is the danger of this kind of technology.
This is control. Hey, we've got a lot on the show today, and my word, I want to fire straight into a TikTok, okay, that we've seen.
TikTok.
Yeah, something like that. The TikToks, they get a lot of bad press. I wonder why, okay?
There's a reason for it.
Exactly. But, oh my word. Now, you actually, I've seen this link that you've got, and we'll talk about that in a bit. Well, pretty much straight away. But I actually saw something very similar. So I think that there's quite a bit of a movement going on, this sort of thing. So, yeah, I'm interested in your thoughts.
These kind of things come and go on the internet from time to time. With one hand, I'm kind of cautious in terms of putting these out there. But on the other one, I'm going, look, we need to be aware of this kind of conjecture going on. And what's come up is a clip from someone called Tafana World, their online name on TikTok, talking about microchipping payments services. And you got a clip to play on that, and one of us does.
Yep.
Yeah, that's me. That's over here, Derek.
Okay, that's you. I'm not sure which one's the cure. I thought we might have a listen to it and then discuss it. Now, there's two clips. You've got to stick around for the second, okay? Because we need to put it in context and play you the first. So,
before we get into it, what I want to ask: have we verified that she did actually get chipped?
Well, this is the thing. The reason I'm going through with this, I haven't been able to verify that her particularly, but I actually met someone about a year ago who was microchipped here in Perth, and I was absolutely floored that that was actually under consideration. Two, that they'd done that to themselves. And my business partner was absolutely laughing at me at the time because my jaw was on the ground. And I wish I'd thought of it, asked the question, why have you done that? It didn't even enter my headspace. I was just absolutely shocked.
Yeah, when you're that shocked, the words just fall out of your head, quite frankly. You don't know what to say. And when I hear people saying, how wonderful it's going to be, we've got all this convenience, all this, as we'll see on the video, but I've had a conversation with someone here in Perth who felt the same way. And I was just like, oh my, please look through this, look further, okay?
Yep.
I'm just not prepared to be a cyborg yet. Cool it'd be to have bionic eyes and that. No. Okay. I still like being classed as a human for now.
Oh, you're so picky.
Should we get into the video?
Let's have a listen to it because I want to dive into it a bit more.
I put a microchip in my arm and it's the best thing ever. This chip is a powerhouse. It's got everything I need. A credit card, my ID, my medical info, and even my keys. And when it's time for groceries, you just tap your wrist and bam! Transaction done. It's like magic. In a medical emergency, it can save my life. Experts can easily identify me and my medical history. I feel like a sci-fi character and I'm loving it. This amazing chip is totally free. That's right, no more digging into your pockets. And the best part, the surgery is quick. They'll give you a cookie afterwards.
Okay, nothing's free. First thing, nothing in the world is free. If it's free, they're harvesting your information to resell, let's be honest. There is so much wrong there. There are so many places we can go. So
the first one. Sorry, I've only just noticed this in this replay. So for the people listening, edgeradioaustralia.com, please subscribe to the thing. We need to get the app out and running.
Absolutely.
For the people watching online, you would have seen the actual video as well.
Yep.
Did you see when they're saying they can see my entire medical history? So there was a picture of a pill, a syringe, and a skull and bones.
No way. Yeah. Oh, I missed that myself. Okay, that's very visual for you. Okay, so
and we have got people watching it. Bob's, the cookie sells it.
Oh, doesn't the cookie sell it? Yeah, it's like well, I think are they trying the whole idea when you give blood, you're given a cookie. It's kind of like there's your little pellet. Don't get me wrong, I want people to give blood. It's a fantastic thing to do, but
depends what sort of cookie they give you.
Depends what kind of party you go to, I guess.
The thing that gets me is it's very appealing to that generation.
Yeah.
Right. Who probably wouldn't think through the whole ramifications of their actions and what's actually going on here.
Are you saying millennials actually think?
No, it's not possible.
Well, I mean, we've all done stuff in our younger years that we probably think, given a few years, I probably would have thought twice had I known what I know now.
Hey,
Sorry?
Derek, have you got a tattoo on your lower back?
I believe it's called a tramp stamp, but there you go.
I'm just glad that there was no social media when I was in my 20s, man. I could tell you that.
goodness for that. But you are so right. I mean, I was actually having a conversation with some people who are in their late 20s on Saturday, and they were talking about how do I say this in a nice way? They are so watered down as a generation that they just don't have any backbone or direction. Now, I know I'm generalizing. I'm sure there's people out there of that generation who are powerful and really, have got a strong will, but
I'm just yet to find one.
I'm struggling. I am struggling, but I couldn't believe everything. It was all of this, like literally everything he's saying is about virtue, and it was all very artificial. And they don't. No one seems to want to take personal responsibility of their own body, their actions, their decisions, all that kind of carry on. And it's a case of, look, why would I keep my medical history when I can just have a chip in there?
They want everything here and now.
Yeah,
and I think this is like playing right into that aspect of it.
But I'm going to throw another thing at it, right? Okay, we already have it. We
Mobile
already
phone.
have it. Exactly.
But where's my phone?
Where's my phone?
Have you seen my phone?
Oh,
It's on silent. It was in my handbag.
Well, okay, as I hear
It's in my
from you
keys.
every single day about this. But the thing is, okay, we all have our phone. We all have a mini computer everywhere we go in life, okay? So
Which has a tracking device in it, so-
exactly.
Yes,
Now,
and it fries your testicles when it's in your pocket.
nice. Okay, well, that explains everything. Now, but my point is, the great thing about that, even though we know the evils of it, is it's got a switch on the side. I can turn it off, right?
And they can turn it back on. They're watching you.
Ooh, very true.
I don't know if that's true or not, but yeah.
No, it is. It's in terms and conditions. So yes, they can. They can literally turn your recorder on, and you can turn your phone off. You can put it in the room, and they can turn your phone back on and record you. This is in the terms and conditions, right?
I wouldn't be surprised.
it-
That's why we should get clear phones. So clearunited.com, great
Okay,
company.
okay.
They take all the tracking software out of a phone.
Gotcha.
So-
Well,
By the way, Clearphone, if you're listening, please sponsor us. We need money.
that'd be nice. I'd love that. But the thing is, you can turn the phone off. You can leave it in another room. All that kind of thing. You can distance yourself from this, right? If the chip's in, you are now owned. Like you are owned.
I think too. There's going to be a lot of responses from different sectors of the community on this. Okay, people go, well, there's the whole extreme. You've got nothing to hide, etc. There's also you got the Christian community who are going to say, hey, this is linked to the mark of the beast,
Yes.
which is in the Book of Revelation in the Scriptures, and then they are going, this is one step closer. And I look at people who pay with those Apple Watches, and I go, this is just conditioning. This is social conditioning to do this swiping already.
Sure.
It's just
My
moving society to that direction.
My concern is if it's outside of your body. So let's say someone steals your car and swipes it. You can say, well, no, I was actually physically in this location.
Sure.
I couldn't have purchased that. So you've got an excuse.
Yep.
What I can see happening, and this is probably thanks to my security work in the past, I can see instead of mugging people for their wallet, there's going to be more kidnappings where they actually grab a person and then force them to swipe to purchase things.
Yep.
So I find bullying and harassment, especially like if they go to the point where they're starting to do this to teenagers, like say 16 up, the amount of bullying and harassment already going on through the school systems. So they will now be grabbing kids, dragging them to shops to use their hand to buy shit, which they don't want to do.
Such a good
How
point.
can you prove that you didn't do it when the chip's in your arm? So there's no way to say no to that.
And people don't think about an exit strategy. Once it's implanted in you, how do you get it out?
Oh, you just cut the arm off.
Yeah.
Out the elbow.
Yeah,
Easiest
because
way.
if they were to put a mandate through that none of these can be extracted once they're in with surgeries and stuff like that.
Oh, look, hang on, Derek. Well, they would never mandate control over a person's body. I mean, that's what a ridiculous thing to say. Jeez.
It's interesting in the context of the last 3 years, isn't it? It's fascinating. Can we have a listen to this second video now, please? Because
yeah, you can. Okay.
Because it's interesting. 2 days later, she's released a video that says this.
Government has frozen my bank account and it could freeze yours too. You have to listen to my story quick and fast because time is running out. A few days ago, I made a post on social media about a danger of having a chip implanted in my arm. I thought I was exercising my right to free speech. This morning, I woke up only to find that the video I posted was gone, and it was just the beginning of the nightmare. As I was trying to pay for my coffee, the microchip in my arm stopped working. I couldn't even pay for anything. And when I got back to my apartment, it locked me out too. Everything was in there, including my cat Misty. This is why I posted this video as a warning and a plea for help.
again, we can't verify how authentic this accurate, journalistic accurate these videos are, because it's very easy to manufacture this on a video. You just running your hand over that, and there may not be a microchip in there. So I want to make that clear. However, I want to do this and have this conversation, or start this conversation, because I think the community needs to know this could be where things go if you don't take your power back.
Absolutely.
And this is where I'm going, hey, warning, warning, warning. The fact that this is out there on social media, these conversations are happening. There are a lot of followers, comments going on to these videos.
Sure.
Folks, got to think about this big time.
You certainly do. Look, and I've been told by someone who works in a particular building in Perth, and I'm going to be careful of what I say, because exactly what you're saying. I can't verify this. I've been told this firsthand, but, you know, I'd like at least a couple more sources. But this person did tell me that they volunteered, they were offered it. It was a package offered by their employer to have a chip put in their wrist, so they've got access to the building. So a building in Perth,
mining
Western
company?
Australia. Yes, a mining company.
I've spoken to someone from that company as well, and they've said no, they haven't done it.
Right. There you go. Okay. Well, this is what this person told me. They were offered it. Okay, as a part of their their package.
I wonder if it's just the city workers.
Well, perhaps, because that particular building's rather large, and you've got obviously access to different levels and thing. And I probed further on this and asked, and they literally said yes, it was for access to all the things. And they also then went on to tell me afterwards how it was great, because they could actually, it was also linked, had potential and was going to be linked, so they could purchase food and drink and all kind of thing within the building as well.
Well, some companies, I do know that some companies are doing it with thumbprints to access different areas of the building.
Oh, that's been around for ages.
Yeah.
So, and I go, you're giving a company permission to capture an image of your biometrics.
Yes, exactly right.
You know what's funny? And I'm going to say this up front, because I was only 16 at the time. I was working, my first real job was a fruit and veg packer at Woolworths, and your log-in, log-off thing was all done through your fingerprints.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm 40 now. So what's that? 24 years ago? So
that's crazy.
That's been happening.
One of the things that she highlights there is my bank accounts are frozen.
Yeah,
and it's really interesting, because I'm actually in a situation where one of my business accounts is frozen at the moment with the banks, and it's
what have you been doing, Derek?
All I did,
God, being free. How dare you?
Yeah. Have you been to Canada lately?
It was simply changing some structures in one of my businesses with my accountant, and because of this, ASIC has struck it off the registered register, and that has triggered to the bank that that account now has to be frozen. And
you know what you need to do? You need to take a cookie down to the bank and
that's right.
Bit of bribery works the treat.
It has been a fight, and it's gotten complicated, because this one particular bank goes, we're not opening any more business accounts. And
what?
Yeah, they're getting rid of their business customers, and so you've frozen my account without any warning. You've frozen my business account, and you won't do this now. Can you? Thankfully, I don't need to use this business account very much, but I need to bring things up to scale and house cleaning in terms of your finances, because things change and all this sort of stuff. Now, can you imagine being in the scenario where you don't have a backup plan, you don't have a situation where you're dependent on those payments coming through, and suddenly it's just flick of a button, boom, you're cut off. This is the danger of this kind of technology.
This is control. Okay, I mean, look, you can't control the most fundamentally easy way to control someone is financially. Okay, we've seen that again over the last 3 years. You want to force a population to doing something that the government wants them to do. Well, hey, we'll just take away the way you earn a living, because if we do that, you can't feed your kids, you can't pay your mortgage, all of that sort of thing.
My other concern on this one is just going with those financial controls again. For the ease of it, I can actually see some less and I'm not talking about stupid people here, less educated. So let's say someone goes into the crypto sphere and they start actually making a bit of money on the crypto side of things, and they store their 12-word phrase onto the chip.
Oh, yeah.
Then all of a sudden they lose their entire crypto accounts and things like that, or access to all their smart wallets.
But this is why people are going crypto, because they're trying to get out of the system. And quite right.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, I can see someone who's gone into the crypto system and they're like, oh, great, this is a good way to earn money. I'll deposit, $50,000. I'll put my 12-word phrase onto my little smart card thing.
Yep.
And then next thing you know, it's gone. Everything's gone. They're just vanished.
It's absolutely terrifying for a younger generation who are just putting everything in. And as I say, look, okay, I pay with my phone a lot. I mean, I do the PayPass.
Yes, I've seen.
Okay, so I'm not saying I'm against the technology, but I like the fact that I can leave my phone elsewhere. Okay, I like the fact that I can do that when I need and in my
except when you need cash out.
I can't get cash anywhere, which is driving me.
No, you're legally not allowed to. You can't use tap and go to get cash out.
Yes,
you've got to use your physical card.
Yeah, exactly, right. No, but even then, I mean, find an ATM, right? I can't seem to get
petrol
cash
stations.
Right. Okay.
Don't go to a bank to get money out. You go to a petrol station or Woolworths.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Well, maybe I need more than $50, but there you go.
But you're not allowed to, Aaron. $50. That's all you need for a packet of smokes.
I don't smoke.
I know.
Should I take it up? I don't know.
But what happens if you want to go to the casino? You need some cash.
Now, what else is out of control? Oh, the government.
Is it government bashing time? I hope so.
It's get the gloves on.
It's kind of funny because you were telling me that I'm not allowed to bash the government anymore, but it's so
I did not say that. Do not put words in my mouth. That did not happen. I said,
considering what the word things.
Yeah, the wordplay. Yeah,
wordplay we're doing earlier. That's probably not the best wording.
Got to be so careful around you. Use single syllables with you, but it's important. It is important because there's a bit of an inquiry going on. I'm told. Well, it's not the Fitzgerald inquiry because that was very successful. You don't know what I'm talking about. Do you?
No. I was going to say it's another native title. Royal Commission coming up. So anyway, so this one is probably worth more money. Actually, no, it's not. 120 billion. So just a bit of pocket change for the Australian government.
Sure.
In infrastructure faces acts as Albanese orders review. So this is actually an article from the Australian. And I must admit, I'm really, really surprised that the Australian is starting not being so woke. They're starting to have actually stories from both sides of the media, which I find kind of shocking.
It won't last long.
I think that usually is a trend media does to try to look like, hey, we need to put a bit more balance in the mix. So I see that trend a lot. They go one field and then you see something that is a little bit
look, absolutely
does the other point of view, and of course it's more heavily weighted in one direction.
I think Sky News does it really well. I find that actual articles are more a little bit left leaning, but the opinion pieces are more right leaning. It's sort of like the journalists have to write this way, but the opinionist goes, hey, hell no.
Here's what I really think. Yeah.
So it's quite interesting. So I'm actually, I'd never thought I'd say this, but I'm actually quite enjoying the Australian at the moment. I used to always listen to this, like Sky News, Fox News in America, stuff like that. But now, it's good to see Australian news tabloid
is more accurate
is actually slightly becoming news again. Anyway,
well I'm going to say this. When Derek, when you brought up this issue before we started the show about the infrastructure and the investigation into it and all that kind of thing, like my initial thought was great because of the rorts.
Well, should we tell them what's actually happening?
Please do. Let's put it in context.
When it was actually created, there's like a slush fund of $120 billion. So it was supposed to be designed to fund 150 infrastructure projects around Australia. So the Albanese government is arguing that over the last 12 years of coalition governments and that, it's what's happened. It was 12 or 8 years, whatever. It's now blown out to 800 projects around Australia. And so they're arguing that it's been rorted, it's been taken for a ride. It's sort of like the NDIS, but for the coalition government instead of the Labor government. So they want to have a look at it, at trying to cut back on the spending on that one because they need to do things like funding The Voice and funding NDIS services. So I'm adding those last two little points there. That was me.
I know.
So the question is, in this regards, going back to Aaron's first thought, great reduction in government spending.
Yeah, that was my initial thought. Yeah.
Well, my thought was this. I mean, you got to remember we had a market crash in 2020. And one of the great things when economies crash is that often governments will spend on infrastructure to create jobs so that the economies can catch up and keep people off the unemployment line. And I think that's actually a good thing because it's something that the future beneficiaries are the generations to come when it comes to infrastructure, our road structures. If Australia wants to keep up with the world in terms of economies, it's got to have the infrastructure to do that. And I think one of the biggest dangers that I've seen is certain cities in the United States where have let it go. And then 50 years go by and they've got old infrastructure and you've got to do something and they don't have the funds to actually do it because the job's just so overwhelming. So it's kind of like a house renovation. If you let a few little things go, after a few years, 5 years, there's a lot to get done and it's the cost to do it. It goes right up.
I'm going to use England as an example at the moment. So a lot of the counties in England where police are actually trying to, like, for us, it's a yellow sticker card, so they're not roadworthy vehicles, but then you have a look at the roads and they're covered in potholes. So the roads themselves are not fit for the vehicles. So I really government spending is one of those evils that has to happen. It's got to be there. So especially, and I hate to say it, because there's so many infrastructure programs going on, it's probably one of the reasons why unemployment's been as low as it has been. It's probably also one of the reasons why we've been able to weather the economic impact of COVID as well as we have compared to some of the other countries. So I do support the infrastructure projects, but I am concerned that putting a handrail doesn't cost $1 million. That's sort of blowouts. That's what I'm concerned about.
Well, is 150 projects to nearly 800, is that good efficiency? Does it mean that they're using the money better in these projects so they can do more and there's more projects to be done? I don't know.
Without further details, it's very, very hard. So it's what you go through the article further is, and it's literally apparently the announcement's coming out today. I don't know whether it's already happened or it's about to happen. But what they're saying is because it's unneeded spending from the coalition. So I think what's happened is the Labor government's been copying a lot of slack, so they need something to attack the Liberals back on.
And it's purely political, and that's the thing. And this is why, look, quite frankly, this opportunity to have different opinions is so important, and this is something you're not going to see on the mainstream media, the corporate media. It's one agenda and one narrative. The fact of the matter is, as I say, you walked in and you were talking about this, and I took that attitude of, it's about time they cleaned up that rubbish. Now, with a few minutes to think about it, you kind of go exactly what you're saying. You look at the other side, we have a conversation, and you go, you're absolutely right. Let's face it. Okay, whether and I'm going to be non-partisan on here. Whether you go back to GFC times when all that infrastructure money was paid to keep our economy out of troubles, and Australia was one of the countries that surfed through that the best. Obviously with COVID as well. So yes, spending on infrastructure is a very, very important thing. Now,
but when do we stop spending on the infrastructure? So I think going back to your comment about the GFC, one of the reasons why a housing market is as expensive as it is now is not because baby boomers buying up all the houses. That's utter crap. What's happened is there's been all these government handouts to make buying a house easier. So therefore, because there's more supply, houses come up. Once you start losing that supply, the demand comes up. Of course, because there's more demand, you ask for more a house. So it's inflation, but in the property market. So the same sort of thing happens. You keep stimulating the economy by giving handouts to, like, remember when there was a baby bonus? Yes. And you got $5,000 for having a kid. Yep. What happens? None of that money went to the kids. It all went to Xbox, PlayStations, TVs. A lot of big TVs. All of a sudden, everyone's buying that. And they're like, oh, we can sell it easier because there's a lot of readily available cash. So the prices go up.
Yeah, but okay. The baby bonus was an absolute no ifs, no buts. That was Labor buying votes, right?
Oh, yeah, of course.
And this is the problem.
Or Labor buying Xboxes.
Exactly. But this happens with every election and all through the process. Now, what's happening now with this inquiry is you're exactly right. This is not even about the money per se. This is more about the politics. This is about the perception of right now. Labor's got a lot of eyes on it, for a lot of different reasons.
It's the inflation. They actually stated in the article saying that Australia's got the highest inflation out of the G7 countries. Right. And so Labor's got to be seen to be doing something other than just raising interest rates. Sure. So how do we do this? We cut back government spending. They're looking at this slush fund. So if you're removing the money out there, hopefully they'll stop people from spending money.
But it's happening at every level. Okay, here in the city of Wanneroo, up on the beach, we've got this new shelter that was built to replace one that was there. Now, I'm sorry, I cannot remember the figures. Okay, I really wish I could, but I can't remember them now, of this little beach shack, all right? Just somewhere you can just get a little shelter. Okay, now, they built this thing, they've redone it, and it literally would be at cost, and I'm going to be as close as I can, 10 times the retail value of what it should have been. It is
you've got public liability insurance, quotes, investigations into should we build this? We've got all these lobbying groups that ask the community, there's surveys and rallies and all that sort of shit. So that's why everything costs so much money.
And it is utterly ridiculous because they've literally replaced one shack with another. They've moved it from being made of wood to it's now made of steel. Curious choice right on the beach with salt water, but okay, we'll go with that.
They're looking for the rusted look.
Of course. But my point is that, okay, that there are too many people rorting all the way through the system, whether it be local government all the way through, right? I mean, there should be an investigation into that at a local point, and the mayor should be held accountable for that, right? But we see that right across the board, and this is to see the government here, in this case, the Labor government, using it as a political way to beat up the coalition. How about you literally just stop that and focus on running the country and actually serving the public. It's a theory.
So it's kind of interesting. We've got one of our favorite commenters on, good old Josh.
Great.
He's coming in. I do remember some political parties warning about massive inflation coming. ... Gee, I wonder who that is.
I wonder. Yeah, there we go.
So I think I just winked the wrong eye for the camera. So anyway, and Matt agrees with you on that one, on your little tirade and your rant and your rave. So personally, I think we do need the government spending, but
we do, but it has to be justifiable, and we've got to stop.
There's got to be an end to it. We can't always be relying on government handouts. We need a smaller government, not a bigger government. So, and this first home buyers grant went on way too long.
Hang on. Well, look, here is the thing on that, right? Okay, right. Again, it's all about bloody votes. End of the day, these people want to be in power, right? Now, if the house is unaffordable, and housing is unaffordable right now, it's just ridiculous, okay?
But that's supply and demand.
Absolutely, right? And there's other ways you can stimulate it. Now, the way you buy votes is you go, okay, I'm going to give money out to these young people, and that will help them into the market, right?
And the older people are going to love it because it's going to jack up the prices of houses even more, and the houses they already own will go up in value again.
Spot on. So ultimately, it's about votes. It's not actually generally about
the next generation after that, because you're just compounding the Ponzi scheme even further.
Yeah, but why would they care? Because they've gone 3 years or 6 years or 9 years, whatever they end up in government, right?
Oh, not all of them. Not all of them. Tony Abbott was in Parliament for 27 years.
No, I'm talking
Paul
about,
Lane's now 26 years in politics.
No. I'm talking about in power each time, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
They'll come back again. Just wait 8 years and they're back in again. So then they get all the government pensions and allowances and all that sort of stuff all over again.
Yep. Yes.
Okay, let's put it this way then. Okay, yes, okay, government spending is inefficient. Okay, that I think we agree on that. I'd rather them spending on infrastructure than on something like throwing out vaccines that nobody's used.
But we need
the 40 million of them at $100 a pop.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, come on.
What's that? $4 billion worth of vaccines?
I know they've got a short shelf life, but just buy as many as you can get. Honestly, it's just embarrassing.
At least the infrastructure will last a little longer than the expiry date.
You've got a point. You've got a
point.
Well,
the funny.
Well, Derek, what are your thoughts, mate? Like, okay, can you? I mean, obviously, you
have a laptop.
You've made it very clear. You've got things written on the laptop. You're very well organised. You can read. It's just all coming together. No, but okay, you've obviously got opinions about infrastructure, all right, and seeing it as a positive thing. And you were right. At least you're building something tangible rather than
absolutely. I think we need better ports. We need better.
Please don't say Fremantle Harbour. That's a joke in itself.
Yes, it is.
Right. We need better ports. We need better road systems. I think we've got
not in Kwinana.
I think we've got some really good road systems in Perth in relation to getting around, and they're improving, and we've got to keep them growing because of the population increases. I mean, the worst thing you want is back-to-back, parking lots on our roads, just because there hasn't been enough forward planning. You've got to keep upgrading. You've got to keep
you've hit the nail on the head there. Forward planning, and I'm going to use the Mandurah train station as a prime example of this one. So, I did spend a lot of time in Mandurah from about year 8 through to year 12.
For you, that'd be the best 20 years of your life.
Easily. No, I only repeated year 12 once. But that's because I was too busy playing football. But anyway, so. Mandurah at the time, this is before they put the Forest Freeway in, was the fastest. It was either second or the fastest growing city in the world. It was like neck and neck with, I think, Florida was the one that was beating it.
Right.
And so what happened? They go, oh, you know what? If we put a train, it will get used. And so they built a single story car park and two train system. So the moment it was finished, it was packed. It has never not been packed, to the point where around the corner there's a place called it starts with an A. There's an old footy oval there. So they actually scrapped the entire football oval and turned it into a car park because there wasn't enough. So like when you're building it as a car park, there's going to be thousands of cars there. Go up and go down, dig it out, dig it up, go 3 stories immediately, because it's like they say, if you build it, they will come.
Sure.
And people were driving to Rockingham to get on the train because they couldn't get parking at Mandurah. That's how stupid it was.
Right.
So again, look at the Kwinana Freeway. They keep building it 2 lanes all the way down to Bunbury. Yeah. Why the hell didn't you go straight to a 3 or a 4 lane highway immediately? Same going up past Ellenbrook.
Restraints, mate.
Bullshit. You know how much extra money that's going to cost? Like, just take the hit, do it now, because if you do it, say, in 10 years' time, it's going to cost 4 times as much.
But in 10 years' time, it's someone else's problem.
Yeah.
And that is the whole rotating issue of government, quite frankly. And again, while government is fantastic when they're doing the right thing by the people, the problem is that people are literally short-sighted because they are looking after their own personal goals while they're there.
Well, it's a case of balancing the budget, right? You might want a bigger, wider road, but what's going to suffer because you want a big wide road now?
Well, hang on,
you know what I mean?
Oh, no, there's a tree where I have knocked down, so we have to like make it skinnier to fit past that tree.
That's right. All right, Derek, please.
I think it was Channel 7 who launched.
Hang on, that can't be
here we
true.
go. It's got to be truthful.
Oh, come on. They were doing a report on how the government wants to restrict the use of credit cards when it comes to gambling.
Right.
Oh, what? They're promoting cash-based economies?
It won't include lotto,
Of course not.
but things like poker machines and online gambling won't be able to use that. And what they do is they look at the terminal and the cards, and basically they can match it with the numbers on a credit card and go, yep, it won't transmit through this terminal. So, yeah, interesting. In terms of this balance. So why do I bring this to your attention? All right. What's the deal here between it's your money, you can spend it the way it is? Now, some people would say credits isn't your money, it's your future money your liability.
Because a lot of these cards that are blocked are also Visa debit cards.
Right.
So they use the Visa system, but they're your own personal money, so it's not always credit.
Gotcha. Because I use a debit card, right?
I'm with ANZ. They don't give you a choice.
Is that right?
Yeah, so you buy a card, and it's just a Visa debit card.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, I mean, I like the fact that it's my money. I'm not getting to debt, but there you go.
Yeah, so it's a case of, it's your money, your choice versus, hey, we got to protect the community that government does. It's a really interesting debate. And I think it's been coming up a lot since the last 3 years have gone by. Where is the overreach? Where is the freedom? When do people, obviously we're in a bit of a nanny state, which is an understatement. When do you have the right to go, you know what, I can do and spend how I want to? It's an interesting debate.
I'm not a gambler, okay?
I love gambling. I think it's so much fun. So I used to do binary options trading.
Sure.
So that's literally you pick a commodity or a trade or a forex currency pair and you say, is it going to go up? Is it don't go down? And the scary thing is I used to do it on 15-second charts. So you had like 15 seconds for the charts to move. Now, they banned that in Australia because they claimed that 80% of people who did forex trading, binary options trading, lost their money.
Right.
Okay, how many people who buy a lotto ticket this weekend, what percentage of them are going to lose their money?
Oh, about 99.999999.
So I've never won a lotto. Out of all the birthdays, my nana always gives me a lotto for birthday. So I never pay for it. So I've never lost money on lotto, but I've never won on lotto either.
There you go. And a lot of people, most people think that lotto isn't gambling, right?
No, bullshit, it's gambling.
Okay, of course it's gambling, right? Yes, yeah, you're buying a very small ticket for a very big win, right? But and whether you like gambling or you don't, or whatever the case may be, it's ultimately about why are we letting government into our bloody wallets? It's ridiculous.
Just to answer something, in case people are wondering, do you know why lotto is not considered gambling?
Why?
Because it's a raffle.
Is that right?
It's a fundraiser.
Okay.
It's a charity fundraiser because part of the proceeds go to charity. So my question then is, if let's say Crown Casino donates, say 10% of their winnings to charity, does that mean that running the casino is now considered a charity event?
Part proceeds, yes, a telethon. There we go.
Yeah.
That's actually, it's a really good point because they do make a donation every year to telethon.
So does TAB. So does all the online gambling stations.
A charity.
And let me just say, I mean, we're not here going, hey, you need to go out and gamble and insist that you can use your credit card. That's not the point. The point is the freedom of choice and by which people can spend. I think that's where we're going with
But we go back to that video before about, losing her ability to pay this, pay that because she's got a chip in her arm.
See, she can't even gamble now because the chip won't work. Well, she's gambling with her life by putting the chip in.
She is. I'll tell you what, there's a lot of jokes here when it comes to chips and gambling. Yeah, okay, no worries. But
talk about when the chips are down.
Please stop, Travis. But this is more government overreach. And I'm, as I say, I'm not a gambler. I'm not pro-gambling in any way, shape, or form. It's just not my thing. I'd have to get into a rally car and gamble with my life, but I don't like putting $10 on a horse, right? Each their own, whatever floats your boat. But ultimately, we've got to retain those freedoms, and we've got to stand up to government and say, get the hell out of our wallets, get out of our bedrooms, get out of our minds, right? Because at the moment we're in a cultural war, and our governments are taking so much from us. If we don't stand up, they're gone forever. Okay.
Sorry, I'm just reading some of the comments coming through. They're quite funny.
Okay.
Apparently, everyone loves my dad jokes. That's not true, by the way.
No, I'm sure.
So yeah, we've had a few here. So from Josh, your money, that is the type of thinking that are trying to wipe out. So
yes,
controlling people,
nothing and
slaving
you'll be
people. Yeah. I just find it really fascinating that they do allow government endorsed gambling, but not non-government endorsed gambling. So I find that quite interesting. I think it's Derek. I agree with you here. It's charity in quotation marks from Matthew, but then you realize, oh, it's Travis. I feel so sorry. So yeah, there's two ways to look at this one. I think gambling does destroy a lot of lives. Same as
Absolutely.
alcohol, same as cigarettes, same as drugs.
That's
and
the
abuse and
addiction.
that. It's the addiction side of things.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it needs to be a voluntary condition. So, for example, in a lot of the Indigenous communities in Northern Territory, I think it was Northern WA in Queensland, where the elders opted to go onto the welfare card system. So your welfare repayments were going to a card that you can only buy food and utilities and pay for your bills.
Okay.
You couldn't buy alcohol or gamble with it.
Yep.
That was a voluntary thing.
Okay.
So you had the option to opt out and not do it anymore. So I think the same sort of system should be done in this regard. So if you know you have a gambling problem, you should be able to say, right, I am not allowed to use my credit card for this.
I'm just so completely...
Because it's not a government enforcing, it's a personal enforcing.
I am over all this virtue signaling. I've had a blood enough of it. I hate when I see a gambling ad, gamble responsibly. Oh, what a load of crap.
Why don't they put that on Lotto?
Why don't you just have on everything? Take personal responsibility, for God's sake.
Well, I mean, you raise a point, and as Travis was speaking, any freedom, we're big on freedom. But with any great freedom comes a great responsibility.
Spot on.
Right? So the more freedom you have, the more responsibility is required to manage that.
Well, have a look at it this way. Think about it this way. Way back in the 20s and 30s, right, we had pretty much freedom to do nearly anything we wanted, right?
Okay.
Look how strong the families were back then. Look how strong the characters were. Look how strong Australia as a whole was back then. Have a look now. We've got no freedoms, and have a look how piss weak this next generation coming up is.
Yeah. Look,
so is there a direct correlation between the two?
Of course there is. And look, I look at it this way too. Okay. There's always been that story about the fact that every generation looks at the next one and thinks, oh, you're weak and pathetic. And we all go through that. But look, I ultimately think, obviously, there's a softening over time and all of that. But the current generation and what's being done to people, and because of the electronics that have come into our lives, that's been the biggest difference. Okay. We do genuinely have a very, very, very weak population coming our way, and a weak population is a controllable population. That is the problem.
You've got to look at it this way too. Out of the 20s and 30s, they just come out of the Big Great War.
Yes,
right.
Yes,
and we've also had a generation that came out of the Second World War. Now, I'm not advocating we have a war for the sake of bringing in responsibility, but there is a direct relationship with you haven't had tough times where your national security has been threatened and you have to band together with your fellow citizens to actually fight something. Now, you could say that we're in a different type of war right now. We're in a psychological war for freedoms against this technology. In some ways, some would target it that way. Some would target it towards political great big governments or world organizations that are trying to rule over the sovereignty of individual nations. So it's a war that's en masse. It's not just isolated to Australia as well.
Very true.
And I think what we've been accustomed to is people getting tuned into these things and addicted to these mobile phones and buried in this world of whatever they're interested in, into these niche pockets. These people are living in information silos, right? And forgetting the bigger picture of how does this affect humanity? How does it affect everyone by these actions? And I think I remember, I went through some tough times in my life, and it just makes you more resilient for the next phase. And it builds you up. And I wonder how much of this generation has had that. I also look at there's been a huge attack on the family unit, and you've raised this. And, we have a fatherless generation, right? That that is having a massive impact on our society and is causing huge social concerns.
And
now,
it is
that
not the fathers who are making that decision, I might add, but there we go.
It is costing our nation, right? And it started, I could see it starting already in the 70s when I was growing up, and it's just gotten worse and worse and worse.
Well, okay, we've got 1975, the family court comes into place. I mean, that is, you know, that is the beginning of the end of fatherhood in this country, right? That's a reality, right? They've had 50 years almost of concentrated effort in destroying the family unit. It has been very, very structured. It's been very, very well put together and targeted.
And Hollywood's played its part too, right?
I
mean, how many of us respect Homer Simpson as a great father figure? You know, he's made to look stupid, he's made to look silly, dote, all that sort of stuff.
It's really interesting though that lately,
and that father figure went through many, many sitcoms.
Have a look at Kevin Hart did a movie where he became a single dad raising the kids, and he went through all the traumas that he went through. That was actually I hate to say it, that was a tearjerker.
So the question I have is this: it's a money show.
Yep.
How do we invest in families? Because obviously this is going to make our communities stronger, and we've got to invest in the next generations. And I think there's a real lack of mentorship for a lot of the younger men coming up. And I think there's some exciting opportunities there as well. Pardon me. In terms of to see young guys. I mean, I've just had a friend go overseas, and there was a time in life he was going through a really rough period. He was pretty young in his 20s, and I really felt God saying to me, look out for this guy. And it was a great investment in his life.
Sure.
And a great investment in mentoring him, working through a number of issues that he was working through, and to see him change and grow when now he's ready to go on to the next phase of his life and go apart. And I think we've got to see that as men who are older, who've done a few more yards, who are those young people who need that guidance, who need that leadership, but also financially. I mean, it does cost you sometimes, take that young lad out to lunch, take him out to, just buy him a coffee or whatever, and just say, listen, how you going, and all this sort of thing. But the bigger investment is your time.
Spot on. That was supposed to say exactly that. Invest your time in people. I am personally mentoring a couple of young fellas, and I think it's every man's responsibility to do that because of the damage that's been done, and it's also every woman's responsibility to step up. And when you see this being done, to act and to be heard. Right.
So this is one of the things I hate that I've had to take my kids out of the school, is because they ran a project called the Fathering Project. So there was a lot of Aboriginal kids who didn't have fathers. So they encouraged the fathers of other kids to step up and be that mentor for the kids that didn't have a father in their life. So that was a really, really good project. Things like this, breaking the education stranglehold that they've got, saying, oh, dads are bad, mums are good, separate the family side of things. Having programs like, for example, Edge Radio, that's bringing awareness to that. We've got that dating show on Edge where they talk a lot about relationships.
I want to clarify that. It's not a dating show. It's about relationships.
A relationship show, there you go. Yeah. So there are shows which help people to break the current mold, and I think education is the first thing we need to get right. Education and what's in the media, because you got to remember, media is a major source of education for people as well.
Of course it is.
Absolutely. So it's adult education or adult brainwashing at the moment. So so if you guys do want to keep hearing great shows like this one, heartfelt truths, I suppose that's the way to put it. We really do need people to sponsor it. So I know this is a bit of a cash grab, but Edge Radio Australia, please subscribe. We do need the money.
I have no financial interest in Edge Radio in terms of I'm not a shareholder or anything like that.
Sure.
I don't think we have shareholders.
or anything like that. So, I don't get any financial gain. They publicise my stuff. That's pretty much it.
So Derek, give us some money.
So what I'm saying is, guys, you want to invest in this and you believe in this and this is something close to your values, then invest in Edge Radio Australia.
Really appreciate that. Ultimately, we're not about profit. We are about bringing something and giving back to the community. And quite frankly, unfortunately,
trust me, there's no profit to be had.
No, there's none.
No, my bank account tells me that.
Look, you know what? It's important to give. And I think you gain more in your life if you give than you take. So we're trying very hard to give, but we certainly appreciate your help.